You can pre-sign up for Etherea and check out some of the other workshops being led by other Etherea ambassadors such as ourselves. Etherea is an innovative education platform that combines multiple fields and utilizes its knowledge to help youth aged from 15 to 30 to change their lives and the world. There's some truly fascinating workshops coming up, and each one of these connects back to the same theme, how humanity fits into the greater story of planet Earth.
That's amazing. Of course, for those who are joining us for the first time, welcome. My name is Erfan, a naturalist, author, and biodiversity advocate. I grew up turning over rocks in the deserts of the UAE, tracing fox tracks and chasing beetles. That childhood curiosity became a calling to reconnect people with nature. And of course, I'm not pursuing my bachelor's, but my real classroom has always been the wilds, from the Gulf mangroves, to be honest, to the rainforests of Northern Iran, are unfortunately under fire for 3 weeks now. My work has taken me to platforms like TEDxYouth, COP28, and much more. And I, and of course, Luca and Erfan, have been speaking for the ecosystems that can't speak for themselves. At 16, I founded the Wildlife Focus, which later grew into Nature Talks, a podcast built on the power of storytelling. My book, The Era Changed, came from fieldwork and witnessing both beauty and loss. And of course, our purpose here today, and as you're seeing throughout these workshops, are simple. To remind people we are not separate from nature, but we are a part of it. And of course, beside me is someone who shares that mission, my friend Luca Berardi.
Thank you, Erfan. It's an honor to be here again. I'm Luca Berardi, a biodiversity advocate, Etherea Animal Welfare Ambassador, and founder of YARH, Young Animal Rescue Heroes. I've spent more than a decade now working to protect endangered species and inspire youth action through conservation, music, and storytelling. I truly believe that every young person has a role in shaping the future of this planet.
Amazing. And of course, over the next hour, we'll be going to take a journey through deep time, tracing how, our impacts have been going on across the planet, what we have done to different species. And of course, together we'll see that life story, no matter how lost, can still rebound and recover if they give it a chance. And I think, and that understanding might be our greatest key to survival itself.
And that, of course, is what we will be carrying on from this session into our fourth and final workshop, which you can also check out. But let's begin by thinking about a world where humans and wildlife were neighbors, not enemies. Animals for a long time were part of our communities, our stories, even our own survival. And for thousands of years, not in the way we do today, we didn't dominate the wild, we coexisted with it.
Right, Luca. But as agriculture, cities, and trade grew, that relationship changed, and wildlife started to be seen less as kin and more as commodities. Hunting shifted from survival to sport, and then to profit.
And this isn't just history. Today, the illegal wildlife trade is the fourth largest transnational crime after drugs, arms, and human trafficking, worth around something like $20 billion annually.
People, of course, fuel this demand through luxury goods, traditional medicine, exotic pets, and even wildlife tourism. Tourism can be a force for good, but if it's unethical or unregulated, it can actually harm wildlife.
Absolutely. Take elephants in Africa. In the 20th century, demand for ivory led to a 60% population drop in this species. Even today, partially legalized ivory trade sparks spikes in poaching. Or the tigers in Asia, tiger bone wine and pelts and fur trading. These farms have tiger bone wine created tiger farms, and these farms, while legal on paper, feed the illegal black market and the demand that it relies upon. And parrots and macaws in Latin America, up to 80% of them die before ever reaching buyers in the pet trade.
Exactly, and the pet trade is just very vast. But of course, this workshop is fairly different. So before we move further, let's check our assumption with a quick poll. And of course, you know, here we can see a statement. What do you think, perhaps, is the illegal wildlife trade? Does it help reduce illegal poaching by regulating demand? What do you think? Let us know in the chat if it's true or false as we move ahead. And of course, we'll get back to it later to see if it's right or wrong. So, Luca, what do you think on poaching, perhaps?
I don't like it. No, I think it does have a connection to the legal wildlife trade.
I see. True. It is very much true. And I mean, like, it's not just poaching, but I mean, like, many of the animals who get poached later get harmed and escape yet die in the end. So it's just annoying, to be honest. I think everyone answered the poll, perhaps. Should we review the answers or leave it at the end?
We can review the answers. Yes, the correct answer was false.
Yep. Perfect. So the answer was false indeed, which is option B, I think. And yeah, because think about it, how might our everyday choices like buying a product or supporting certain tourism experiences impact wildlife thousands of miles away? And I think that's a way that you all must start, shopping and so on. Yep. Maybe you can go ahead and start with loss of habitats then, Luca.
Yeah. Poaching kills individual animals. Habitat loss, on the other hand, kills entire species. And today, habitat loss is the #1 threat to biodiversity globally.
Exactly. And the big question is what drives habitat loss in the first place? I think when we look at especially news and statistics, it is deforestation for palm oil, soy, timber, and cattle. Agriculture replaces, of course, diverse forests with monocultures. People deliberately burn down forests to make way for agricultural land. And mining, on the other hand, for minerals and resources, pollutes and destroys land and waterways. And of course, urban sprawls fragment habitats into deadly patches.
Sometimes animals are trapped in what ecologists call an ecological trap. They mistake degraded habitats for safe ones. Imagine turtles, for instance, nesting near roads because artificial lights might confuse them. What seems safe is actually deadly.
Yep, and of course, talking about a case study here, the Amazon rainforests, of course, once, as we've seen in the news, once absorbed more carbon than it releases. And now, due to the logging and cattle ranching and burning and so on, it emits carbon instead and hosts 10% of all known species. And of course, on the other hand, in places like Indonesia, palm oil plantation threatens orangutans, driving them into villages. And of course, this creates conflict with humans, threatening both species, to be honest.
Yeah. And let's take another quick poll. Protected areas alone can stop habitat loss. What do you think? Is it true? Is it false? What do you think, Erfan?
Will we reveal the answers? I don't know. I'm not going to reveal it.
Okay. No, let's give ourselves another 10 seconds to answer. Yeah,
Perfect.
there you go.
So I thought the answer is false.
Yeah, the answer is B, false, because over 70% of threatened species live outside protected areas, actually.
Yep. And talking about that, let's reflect. What does home mean to an animal, And how, of course, do we decide whose home matters most, ours or theirs? Let's see who can answer this by the end of the call, perhaps.
Yeah, leave your answers in the chat, please. As habitats shrink, animals move into human spaces in search for food, water, or safety. This isn't aggression, it's desperation, but it often leads to conflict and fear and even retaliation. This is what we call human-wildlife conflict.
Yep, and of course, types of conflict include crop raiding, livestock predation, and urban incursions, For example, elephants destroying crops. I've heard this example a lot in India. Wolves or lions preying on livestock, or leopards appearing in cities. I spoke to someone a while back on snow leopards attacking livestock in Pakistan, and I think people hate them for that reason. But of course, the emotional side is just as important. Fear, pride, and the sense of losing control plays a big role. Especially when we look at it, there are people around the world who are living so close to habitats that they are fragmented, that they are having their children or themselves attacked by wild animals like leopards.
Absolutely. Some case studies, for instance, we can look at India, where farmers electrify fences to kill elephants after crop raids. In Kenya, lions and hyenas are poisoned after livestock attacks. In Sweden and I'd wager even most of Europe, there's very, very complicated relationship with wolves, and particularly with how it might conflict with the interests of reindeer herders in this case, or just people who have livestock, sheep, and so on.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I think introducing wolves is going to be such a great change to Europe, but of course, it poses a big threat. Again, once again, we have got another poll. So, most human-wildlife conflicts are caused by naturally aggressive animals. True or false? Let's see.
What do you think?
I don't know. I've not been, in contact with naturally aggressive animals at all, but I think sometimes humans can be more aggressive, to be honest.
Very, very true.
Yeah. Yep. So the answer is false again. Yep. And that is, of course, because, conflicts are, as we mentioned, symptoms of loss of habitat, not just animal behavior. And the solutions must balance human and wildlife needs through compensation schemes, early warning systems, and, education for coexistence. I mean, I remember there was this indigenous community in Africa where a person named Mr. MPC mentioned that the reason animals attack people is because you are destroying their home. You're feeding them food that you're not supposed to feed, and they get angry. They're like, get out of here. And of course, I think that's an amazing thing to learn. That the reason we are being attacked by animals, not of course we, I mean people who are close in contact with them, is because we have taken their space, to be honest. And of course, talking about that, when habitats are fragmented, populations are isolated, like islands in a sea of human activity. And this leads to, of course, inbreeding, loss of gene flow, disease, vulnerability itself to many different things, not just disease. And of course, increase in extinction rates. That's if we've got these pockets or wildlife bridges, I think they're called.
Mm. And fragmentation, that's a term that we've used quite loosely here, just mentioning it in the presentation so far. But what does that actually mean? Well, let's look at some examples. Florida panthers, which are an eastern subpopulation of the North American mountain lion or puma or cougar, their population has dropped to about 20. I think it's increased a little bit by now, but I think inbreeding has caused some heart defects and low fertility, and the only true hope right now is genetic rescue, because their population has just gone down so precipitously. Koalas in Australia, habitat fragmentation spreads chlamydia, which causes population collapse. And European butterflies have been very, very hard hit. Fragmented meadows have led to a 50% species decline in the past 50 years, which is very, very sobering, to put it
Yeah,
mildly.
but it is very devastating. And I mean, just like we have mentioned, just a few examples, over all these workshops, because you've got so many species on the planet, especially as Luca mentioned, um, you know, insects could be most affected because we are doing a lot of pesticides in our farms, in our gardens. We are removing all the wildflowers, the weeds. And koalas, on the other hand, just to give you a bit of hope, there has been a vaccine that has been recently checked for chlamydia. So let's see what happens.
Hmm.
Talking about that again, this workshop is mainly because we are seeing that many people are aware of all the issues happening across the planet. We are here just to touch on those a bit, but to test your knowledge as well. So we've got another poll coming up, which says that small animal populations can recover without human help or if left alone? Is it true or false again? And don't think because all the previous ones were false, this also could be false. It could be true.
Well, I believe we put the wrong question, but do just follow the the question that's on the slide either way.
Yep.
Yeah.
You can mention your things in the chat.
Yeah.
False.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're seeing some false from the chat now.
Yep. So look at what you think is true or false.
I'm gonna go with the audience. I'm gonna say false.
Okay. So yes, it is false, and that's because conflicts are, as we mentioned, conflicts because of all these habitat fragmentations and so on, and genetic, bottlenecks make recovery rare, and without reconnection with the broader, habitats like wildlife corridors or reintroduction, the species cannot unfortunately recover.
Mm. Moving on, another thing that also plays a role is how cultural narratives and misconceptions, they also play a role. Culture shapes how we perceive animals. Misconceptions, they fuel fear and unnecessary killings, and at the end of the day, also poor conservation choices.
Yeah, exactly. There are so many, especially like when it comes to animals like snakes, spiders. They think whatever snake is there, it bites. Whatever spider is there, is a tarantula. So yes, we face a lot of myths and unnecessary fears. And of course, talking about that, it's about snakes, as I mentioned. They're often called evil, but they actually control pests like rats and mice that are unfortunately now invasive species in many places. And I don't know if you saw, Luca, recently in National Geographic, they posted a new video of a rat or a mice attacking bats, which is
Yes,
crazy.
that was,
Yeah,
yeah, that's an incredible
yeah,
find how they've been living
exactly.
and sort of adapting this new sort of hunting technique because we've
Yeah,
allowed them to.
yep. And of course, so many birds went extinct because of mice being introduced to like different islands and eating their eggs and so on. And they have even had been proven to attack birds, literally like in flight. Birds have taken off and they have caught them. So snakes eat those rats and nasty little invasive species at times.
Mm.
So, and of course, apart from that, many of them could be non-venomous. So yeah, and I mean, like if you keep a safe distance, a snake does not want to bite you, even if venomous, because it takes a lot of time and energy and effort and resources to make those proteins for those venoms. And of course, bats. Bats have got a wide array of myths and misconceptions behind them. They're not just blamed for diseases, but they are being told that okay, because their echolocation, they might hit you in the face. They like to attack your eyes. They like to get tangled in your hair. Um, don't believe any of those things until you see them in person, which I haven't either. But I mean, bats themselves, they eat a lot of nasty insects, mosquitoes, and so on and so on, but also pollinate over 500 plant species, including mangoes and bananas. I mean, like those two are the fruits that I personally like, so I kept them there. But I think there are much more plants that they like. And I mean, like the third is sharks. We have of course kept the most common misconception here. If you're interested, go and search up the rest, or let us know in the chat if you know any other misconception, perhaps from your own locality. And of course, sharks are called man-eaters thanks to Hollywood. And but to be honest, humans kill 100 million sharks annually for their shark fins and so on. But I mean, sharks kill fewer than 10 people per year, and that is not by fault. That's because you're wearing, an outfit that signifies, oh, you look like a seal, and you get eaten instead. Don't
Hmm.
blame the sharks in their outfit.
And yeah, and you're actually, I think you're far more likely to be killed by a coconut falling than from a shark attack or indeed from a
How it
vending
is.
machine,
Yeah,
actually. Yeah.
yeah.
So, of course, we've seen movies and headlines, they can exaggerate danger, but conservation education must respect cultural beliefs and not impose fear.
Yep. I mean, like talking about those, we have got like in India, the Urulas, the traditional snake rescuers, now collaborate with wildlife departments, preserving culture and protecting snakes. In Madagascar, these superstitions about I Lima still influence human behavior towards wildlife. And there are so many. I remember I was talking to this snake sort of expert a few months back, Luca,
Hmm.
and he mentioned that there are these snake charmers who keep a snake inside these baskets for a very long time, and then they take to the temples and so on and offer them milk. And because of thirst and being in that basket for so long, they are desperate to drink that milk. And we're like, oh, what's going to happen? And after a few months or a few weeks, because of lactose and that's not a proper diet for the snake ends up dying. So yeah, we should spread awareness. We have to get to know what is right and wrong, and of course, we have to
Hmm.
respect wildlife because at the end we depend on that ecological system in which we live. Yep. And as we know that we have got a charisma bias. We also mentioned this in the last workshop where people like to fund more animals that are cute or more advertised. Like let's say the lions, the elephants, the pandas. Those are always in the headlines. But the insects, the reptiles, and the fungi are often ignored or not mentioned, although they are the most, if not the most important part of the ecosystem. I mean, they are all important equally, but I think insects are something which don't go noticed as much.
Exactly.
Yep. Um,
And the
so,
same can go for cultural and moral bias. Indigenous
exactly.
displacement has happened for parks. I think maybe some of us have noticed on our social media feeds the recent ludicrous placement of a luxury hotel right in the middle of the migration path of the wildebeest between the Masai Mara and Serengeti in Kenya and Tanzania. And a lot of the voices of the local Maasai are being suppressed in favor of profit and effectively creating this very polished idea of an African safari and that sort of tourist experience. And while moral bias might favor cute species and media bias focuses on iconic wildlife, every species, seen or unseen, matters for ecosystem health. And we have all these Western narratives that dominate, but it's local perspectives and indigenous knowledge that really can take us um, to the next level of having some sort of meaningful coexistence.
Yep. And do you have got any case studies in mind, Luca, about this? I know that about the pangolin and so on. There are a few.
Well, I mean, there's some there's unfortunately many case studies and cases of indigenous people being blindsided and taken to the sides in favor of even sometimes for conservation or um, just for profit. And yeah, we see this in South America, especially with the Amazon, in Africa, especially with Congo and local people there, how they've been cut out from conservation credit schemes, which are actually just greenwashing. Oil companies that are trying to, ship oil and stuff. So yeah, it's not great.
Exactly. And of course, we already saw that most of you are answering the poll itself, so we don't have to put it up. Yes, the answer is both. But before we get to that, we'll just leave it for a while. If we forgot to mention this, but there is an artwork at the end. Go get yourself a paper and a pencil because it's going to be fun. And of course, talking about that, a few other case studies till you go and get your pen and paper or pencil and paper. Pencil and paper is advised. And of course, the penguin is also one of them. The penguin is the most trafficked ant mammal yet, and many people don't know about it. And it receives a tiny fraction of funding compared to elephants. And of course, bats itself gained attention only after COVID-19, mainly, and for the wrong reasons. So yeah, um, that's what. So what do you think, Luca? Let's reflect on chapter one before we move on to chapter two. What do you think?
Yeah, of course. I mean, every conflict, extinction, or loss begins with one decision to place ourselves above the wild instead of within it.
Yep, and of course, think about your own region. Where do you see humanity's footprints the strongest? And if coexistence were possible, what would it look like where you live? Make sure to put it in the chat box.
Keep these questions in mind as we move into chapter 2, where we'll explore how well-intentioned solutions can sometimes create unexpected new problems. And if chapter 1 explored how humans unintentionally harm wildlife, chapter 2 is about a trickier challenge, harming wildlife even while we try to help.
Exactly. And conservation isn't just about saving animals, it is about balancing complex systems. But sometimes, well meaning interventions are guided by emotion, politics, or incomplete science. And the result? New ecological problems, ethical dilemmas, or even human wildlife.
So here's the key takeaway. The road to extinction is often paved with good intentions.
Yep, and to be honest, there are many out there, even like um, in the forest fires happening in the sort of Hyrcanian forests. There are people still asking you, "Oh, come plant trees while the trees are burning." You know, if you plant a tree there while the forest is burning, it's equivalent to being useless. So yeah,
Mhm.
and talking about that, there are a few, of course, case studies and case examples. Introduction of species to control pests, invasive species in this example. It sounds smart, right? But it often backfires, like the cane toad here, or the foxes, or the rabbits, and so on in Australia. Relocating animals also to safer habitats. We see that a lot with reptiles and snakes can actually cause ecological collapse because sometimes the animal might travel all the way back or might starve to death. And of course, rewilding without community support can spark resentment, and planting monocultures under the guise of afforestation reduces biodiversity.
So picture a timeline where we have the problem and then the solution, then the unintended consequence, and then a new problem. Conservation can't just be reactive. It must be systemic.
Exactly. And every ecosystem is like a web, as we mentioned at least all the time for the past two workshops. I mean, pull one thread and the whole pattern changes. Missteps happen when we focus on single species without understanding the entire system. And of course, we still have a lot to learn, discovering new things all the time.
Of
Of
course.
course, when one of the case studies comes, which is Australia. So look at there you go.
Yeah, exactly. Like you mentioned, the cane toad in Australia in 1935, the cane toads were introduced to control beetles in sugarcane fields. Harmless thought, but then they failed to reach the beetles but spread explosively. Over 200 million toads across Australia, and predators that ate from them, they of course are very toxic frog species that can secrete this toxin from this little organ right behind their ears. And native species were outcompeted because of this, and the ecosystems shifted dramatically in response to this new threat. Yeah.
Yep. And I'm not sure. I think the cane toad is also in the bufo family. I know that I personally had an experience with bufotist toads, the green toad back in Iran, and yes, it does secrete a whitish liquid at the end of its ear
Yeah.
from its bufoid glands, I think it is called. So yeah, we also have got a few favorites here. The house sparrows that have been seen all over the world. But I mean, in North America, introduced in the 1850s, it displays native birds like bluebirds. Yellowstone wolves were introduced successfully biologically, but ranchers weren't consulted, and social resentment was huge.
Okay. And I think we do have a poll coming up, or yeah,
Yep, I
it's in
can
a
see.
bit.
Yep, it's gonna be. Yep.
Yeah. And another one
But
that we've
diseases.
also talked about is diseases and how the translocation of some species into a new environment can also bring across these new disease vectors. And the best example of this, of course, is the mosquito that you see right in front of you. The extinction capital of the world, Hawaii, has lost so many of its native birds because of just introducing this one little insect, which brought with it avian flu. And, birds have been climbing higher and higher and higher on the mountains, to try escape from um, the worm infested, mosquito infested areas now. And then when they have nowhere left to climb, some of them perish, and we've lost entire species and entire branches of the tree of life, just because of this. And another great example is the chytrid fungus, which has spread incredibly quickly over the past century, from Australia to South America to parts of Europe and North America, and just decimating amphibian populations everywhere.
So we come to realize that when species are introduced outside their natural range, accidentally or intentionally, they can become invasive, spreading diseases, displacing native fauna, and transforming landscapes. And we have got global trade or pet release, like the pythons in Florida. It's a huge, huge example. And biological control gone wrong and habitat modifications. And of course, all these, let's say, disease, when it's spread, it causes economic damage as well. And of course, that is around over 400 billion per year. And of course, biodiversity collapses. 60% of global extinction involves invasive species.
Mhm.
And yep, so talking about, of course, relocations, um, we have got many failed relocations. Moving animals to new safe areas sounds noble, but it's actually risky because animals often die from stress, as I mentioned, and fail to adopt or disrupt the new ecosystem. So we have got an example of the Botswana elephant, which I think Luca will take us through. Is there a slide on?
Yes, exactly.
No.
Overcrowding has led to mass relocations, and many have died from stress or starvation. These is very, very, yeah. But I think Botswana has one of the densest populations of elephants in Africa. And then we also have Indian tigers, where some relocated tigers were killed by dominant males, and others ended up wandering into villages. Or in 2018, there were some black rhinos in Kenya that died due to dehydration and saline water.
Yep, and what are the root causes? As you mentioned, it is poor relocation at times, or poor relocation studies, ignoring community input, indigenous comments, and of course, that political pressure sometimes pressures them for quick results. Relocation can succeed, but only with scientific planning and consent. Talking about that, I think we are here at that the poor planned rewilding efforts. So yeah.
Mhm. Rewilding aims to restore ecosystems by reintroducing species or removing human interference, but without careful planning, it can create conflict, overpopulation, or, as has been the theme of this chapter so far, unintended damage.
Exactly, and of course, you've got a case study in Netherlands when large herbivores were reintroduced to mimic ice age ecosystems, and the populated, starved, and the public demand, it demanded mass killing or culling, and the ecological success became an ethical disaster.
Wolves were biologically successful as well in Europe, but local communities have lost livestock without compensation, and protests have ensued, which going into the future has made any sort of rewilding efforts to reintroduce wolves that much more impossible just because of this incredible friction between human communities and wolves.
Exactly, and of course, talking about that, we also mentioned fencing about elephants, I believe, in India. I think Luca mentioned it. And of course, fences protect wildlife from poachers at times, but also traps them. It blocks migration and, of course, reduces genetic flow. So I think, yeah, we've got a few case studies, which again, Luca will take you with that. I think there's the Botswana wet fences was one of them. So, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Zebra and wildebeest have died a lot during migration due to this. In India, there have been elephant corridors that were blocked by railways with more than in the hundreds of deaths. And communities were fenced out of ancestral lands, and this has caused also resentment and conflict. So it's this never-ending cycle of friction again.
Yep, and now we have got a Mythbuster poll. Yeah, you might have been shocked. We had a lot of polls in the beginning, but it suddenly disappeared. But yeah, here we have got our next poll. fencing always helps wildlife stay safe from humans. So what do you
Yeah,
think? Is it
and we can
true
have
or
the
false?
answers in the chat for this one.
I think they're already ready in the chat before we even
Yeah, they're
ask them.
coming in.
Yeah. So
Seems we have an overwhelming consensus. Erfan, take us through it.
yeah, so it is false because connectivity, as we mentioned, is essential. Fences can be deadly in disguise, to be honest. So yeah, I remember I was talking to my uncle today, and he mentioned because one of his neighbors did not have fences around his house, raccoons came and destroyed his entire lawn. So
Wow.
yeah.
And moving on, we also have to think about the nuance of how monoculture afforestation and how can that lead to ecological imbalance because, you know, we say planting trees, but that always isn't good. We have to look at the quality of the kind of ecosystem that you're raising up from the ground. Monocultures reduce biodiversity. They do the complete opposite. They alter soil and they, in fact, can worsen water scarcity.
Yep, and I mean, like, there are so many case studies, especially like I always tell to people, plant native trees. Native trees are adopted over millions of years to live in that particular place, you know, and
Mhm.
that's why they're used to capturing carbon, acting as allies for climate change. And a few case studies include India, where people planted eucalyptus plantations, which lowered water tables, and then it displaced grassland species. The China's Great Green Wall, which increased tree cover but destroyed grasslands, and the savanna forestations, which harms cheetah, the bustard birds, and grazers.
Mm. So here's another poll. Is any tree planting, well, any tree planting is good for the planet. Do you think it's true or false? Let's drop those answers into the chat.
I think perhaps for the next ones, Luca, we can ask them to give a reason on why they think it's
Mm, good.
make it a bit
Yeah.
harder.
But
Yeah,
yes,
it is false. So yeah,
yeah, the
we'll
answer
go on.
is false. It's of course, ecological restoration thrives on diversity. And I remember last year I went to the north of Sweden, and Sweden and a lot of the Scandinavian countries, they have this reputation for being very, very green, with more than 60% of forest cover in each country, at least I think. But you go up to the north where the actual indigenous people live and you have reindeer herders, but most of it is monoculture, so it's very, very species poor, in fact. And that is not good, of course.
And of course, Luca mentioned a very perfect thing, exclusion. And I think conservation fails when it excludes people. For decades, fortresses conservation evicted local and indigenous communities, ignoring the fact that they were the original stewards, to be honest.
Yeah. We've seen it again and again, of course. The Maasai in Tanzania were evicted from Ngorongoro, the national park there. Pygmy tribes in Congo barred from forests or accessing them or utilizing them in any way they saw. Modern research has shown that indigenous managed areas have equal or higher biodiversity than actual state reserves and indeed some protected areas. So they are just as vital a tool in our fight against climate change and biodiversity loss.
Yep, and of course, talking about that, we've got one video which showcases how sometimes trying to help can actually affect, the ecosystem around us.
Yeah, let's listen.
Yep.
Ima ko ka pabe sa kakisimple belek. Olen simple lek. tôi ta quên tôi này yên nữa anh ấy sẽ bị có yên nữa Bon, ça va, passer problème les canons bien, pour tout réaliser comme bien. Ça va, non, le taille de pédagogique, si non est bien. Si non. Mais tout le pied. Ah, comment? Les canons qui ont. T'as tout mouillé. Les gars, ils ont effacé. Mais si ils l'ont tanné, à partir qui bon mouvement et qui t'a eu un gars, si ils l'ont tanné. Les gars, après, va tout temps, tout vivre, tout âge. Déjà tout un qui plaît. Si. Qui t'a connu côté, avec tout le monde, tout la bonne opposition. Ah. T'es ban qui sont, ban qui t'a dans la classe, mon mouvement déjà y est. Ban va vivre ou pocher mais pas. Quand on comprend, ah. T'as la caca. On y attend. Oui, non. Tout le temps. Ouais. On t'a fini. Le même pas y. Bon matin. Matin. Bon. Anatokea watu kote yuko. Yana ni ngoja go. Tupishaka nini ndenge toyakawa tobwaki yango na mai après tolekisi boye bayo mpanga mpe toleka tobenda ngole ano te papa never disait botai bosapo Vrente que ya. La petite bavanti ngoni. Zoi. So do bade to ti ga gange fu do bange iti. Ongwene o ga do was. Batata vela yo memo po, tongo no ngula wa zilo no ba nyina do ta ganja, mono yo mangon. Mune mere ko. Na ba na e pesh, na lu kabilo kwa kulia. Poto lu kabile ya kulia. Tangu kondo pe lanto yo ya ungu kelangam bilo kango pe ezo monana
presque batu mingi baza ko utiliser ba mystique na lac nyos tango baza ko pêcher tango baza ko benda filet na bangwana baza ko benda na ba maki na ba mbiso ya mike c'est que ule mbiso ya mike na ba maki baza ko benda etikala kuna ebendami na file wana
ekolaki yango na papa na ngai na mwa ndenge azosala ntango azosala nga mpe nazotala alakisi ngai apesi nga mbanzi meka nano kotonga natongi mpe naye koyeba ezali kopesa na yango oyo na mbanzi bongo file eyesota kosala yango ayozwa na bokese na bango mpe ndenge tozotia banasi yango na mai na ndenge bazobaka file na mai eza na différence
Katin pamen tinde so kolak. Kolak si lo wamba. Iso kanja so kasi. Le ko pe ko wamba dueleke. Wo koleke kisat. Wo koleke kipe. Banga de contrôle. Kasi ne tout ça.
En grosso modo, filet wana ya ndakala eza kodiminuer mbisi na ebale. Vie ekomi pasi na ndenge bato baza koutilize filet wana ya ndakala ya mystike. Okende otala filet na ebale, otali par exemple deux poissons. Deux poissons wana oza na population na kati ya ndako ebele okotunda mbisi wana te. Mais soki tokontinue kaka boye toana bana mosusu bakufa na nzala na yango tozwaki likanisi ya kosala demande ya bato. Likanisi wana eutaki na réunion tosalaki ya baimboka. Tomoni souffrance eleki soki tovivre kaka boye ma bana okoki kokufa na clochocor mpo nzala la vente qui n'a pas d'horaire. La famille na mboka lombe batie biso awa lokola basiveya mpe baleisi mbisi na kati ya eta oyo oza komona awa. Population basangani tosala ndenge nini likanisi oyo population bakopesa CLD a exécuté yango biso nyonso tosanganaki oyo toye kosala demande na société et rapport basala ya biso maziba oyo. Eziba oyo vraiment bambiso ya mike eza bile ya mbiso ya minene. Lokola mingusu ezali awa il faut tobokela bango lokola bambisi baza eza peza malamu mpo mingusu bali ya mbiso ya mike. Tango tosalaki pesha yango liboso tokabelaki mboka mobimba baliaki mbisi na nsima na yango tango toye kosala deuxième pêche tozwi mbisi wana toteki tosombi bakisi mpona hôpital mpo soki mutu abeli awa mapimi vraiment soki lisungi ya société erate bamortalité lingi ezala ebele na kati ya mboka na biso awa. Bambisi oyo touti kolopa na maziba na biso oyo eza angolo na mabundu oyo napesi bino yango mama okende kolamba execution okende bataka nyonso ole nembisi
oyo eloko ya kolia mpenza ya fresh mpenza euti na mai oyo mpenza kotiela papa mutu wana mpenza na sani bano bakolia mbisi oyo na petit moko ya bien.
Mbisi na biso ya minene eleki kutu bambisi ya laki awa na munene.
Mbisi oyo mpenza eza ya kobika ndenge tokangeli yango na mai mpenza eza ya kokamwa mpenza eza ya kobika.
Oyo eketi ngo yaki likolo oyo ata ngola koko likolo ibabie tali totepela songola koko moma ene yomba ye nsanje ne yomba eliaka bato apartien kimpa oita utale ima nongo kiloketi mpe kola wei kitondoko ongola po oyo
Simatala dundeko yata nwako la bebe maka ga batoni kaki atoi oyo ka tai poko luki opa chevaux et changement vitesse ongo ki
bon après botei onka we ngole we tata ina eto ota okambana
vita no ota tayo na ro mwunye eloko tozokanisa na bino na biso na peshe nde topeshaka oyo koya liboso ebale oyo ezanga bambisi tokomotia motema kaka ndenge era société era ekosala biso beta tomeka nanu na baeta mpo tozwa moye ya kobika na ebale awa okoki kokenda awa bamona yo te mbonge likolo ezolela okufi moye te totika nanu mosala oyo tolanda baeta na biso wana
beta mosusu eza bambisi oyo tokoki kolia beta mosusu mpe eza na bambisi oyo eza deja na bamaki na kati eza kobota ifo mosusu etikala wana mpo ebota ese multiplier mpo na frais de compte tokozwa baleve mosusu fo tobwaka yango na ebale tobwaka na ebale ebota kuna na ebale mpo population mobimba mpe ya province na biso ya mai ndombe babénéficie biloko eza kowuta awa na lombe.
Yep. So, Luca, what do you think? That was a good
very,
one.
very inspiring story of how we can hopefully get some behavioral change once we see the negative impact we have on.
Yep, and of course there was some stuff on hope as well. I don't know why.
Exactly.
There we go. So.
And yeah. From there, I think we've not got a lot to go, but there's one more thing that we really wanted to touch on, which was how climate and biodiversity policies often operate separately, which is a fatal flaw, which we often see in today's world. Following all the COPs and conferences that we have, we still have very little on-the-ground action that is going in the right direction. And that's because nature-based solutions depend on addressing both of these in tandem.
Exactly, and we have got like a few case studies such as, climate funds ignoring biodiversity, just tree planting for carbon credit, biodiversity treaties lack enforcement, and carbon offsetting gone wrong, the monocultures, displacing indigenous communities and erasing natural grasslands. Yeah, there are so many examples that you all will know, but of course I think what we come to realize through the past few sessions that both biodiversity and climate change must be addressed together. Now, talking about that, we can start with the artwork, and as we go through it, we can also do a little bit of reflection on both chapters. If you're ready, go ahead. Are you ready, Luca?
Yes. Everyone, get your paper and pencil out. What are we going to be drawing today, Erfan?
We're going to be drawing the ground pangolin, which is, it belongs to the area of sub-Saharan Africa, but there are so many pangolin species spread out in Asia and so on. So yeah, they're the most trafficked animals, so I hope you know what a pangolin is.
Yeah.
Should we go to the next step? I hope everyone is done so far.
Yeah, can maybe give you a few more seconds, but
Yep.
Okay. Okay, we've got 2 thumbs up.
Perfect.
From the chat. All right. I think we're safe to move on. Let's go.
Yep, and there are of course a few fun facts you can get to know about the pangolin up there as you draw. But I think we come to realize, just to reflect a little bit, that saving wildlife isn't just about science, it's about humility, it's about connecting with nature. And every, of course, intervention must begin with the question, who are we really helping? That is a big question.
Yeah.
You can go to the next one, that's just a small circle, so
yeah.
Yeah. So what reflection would you have, Luca, for this workshop?
I think it's interesting with it's very interesting with the failed, I mean, the unintended consequences of our solutions and how they sometimes come back to bite us. How conservation can be reimagined as a partnership and not just control, because that sort of takes away, I guess, the true heart of the sentiment of preserving nature for all of us together, if it's still being, at the end of the day, something that separates.
That is very true. Yeah. And of course, if the audience also they want to reflect their own stuff, they can go and reflect about this workshop on their own in the chat, of course.
Yeah, of course. And if there are any things, if there, if you could design one fix for conservation's blind spots, what would it be? You can drop those answers when you're not caught up with whatever step we're on step 4 now.
Yep.
I think I gave my pangolin a very, very long neck.
Who knows, Luca, maybe you made a new hybrid. Pangolin giraffe hybrid, perhaps.
Even just a pangolin hybrid. There are many species, and the hybrids do exist. So who knows?
Exactly. So should we head to the next part then?
Yeah.
Oh my, the face. The face is going to be a...
Yeah. So zooming in now, I think.
Yep. And of course, if you are on social media and would like to share your artworks with us, you can either do it after we end, drawing this. And of course, we'll be happy if you can add it on your social media and tag us. We can also share it and take a look at what amazing things you have drawn.
Absolutely. Ooh, now the scales begin.
Yep. And I made a mistake and draw the pangolin big enough, so it's going to be a bit difficult to draw the eyes and stuff. But yeah.
Oops. Okay. I think I'm happy with mine. You can let us know in the chat when we can proceed.
Yeah, because I think this part was a bit of a challenging part. Do let us know when you're done with a thumbs up or something, perhaps. Do you see any thumbs up, Luca?
Got 1, 2.
Perfect.
3. Yeah. I think we can. Let's keep going.
Perfect. Yep, there we go on the hands now.
Okay, we've got one thumbs up already.
Perfect. Whoever that is, he or she is very fast in drawing.
Oh, we're getting more and more thumbs up now, so Erfan, you need to
Yep, I
you
will
need to
just
keep
move ahead.
up.
I think I will catch up.
Okay.
I don't know how you all are finishing that fast. The hand is a bit of a challenge.
We're all trying our best, don't worry. Okay.
You move forward.
Right.
Ah. Oh my. Where to start now?
And this is where it gets serious.
I have to think of where to start.
I was just about to say that actually.
Yeah.
It's quite a daunting animal.
Thank God it's not a fish. The scales are pretty big for this one at least.
Oh no. Oh no.
What about Luca? Messed up?
We'll see if I can salvage it.
The thing is, at some point you start to lose track on which scale is which. Makes things complicated. I think unless you're not going to sell your little drawing to someone who's a wildlife expert, you can draw the scales somewhat like what you see. You don't need to be as accurate.
My hope is that if it's at least more pangolin than pinecone, I think I've succeeded. I cannot tell though if I am succeeding.
I also cannot fairly say until the thing is done. love the sun appearance of the howler monkeys in this situation. They're howling for us.
I think the perfect animal to represent our brain status right now.
Exactly.
I am just about finishing the leg. How about you? How are you doing?
I am in the mid body. I haven't reached the leg part yet.
Okay.
I don't know what you all eat for lunch, dinner, and breakfast, but you're too fast in drawing. At least the pendulum, that's for sure.
Let's see. Hang on. Okay.
I mean, like, yeah, but it's far better than if we gave you a math problem. So that's a part to be thankful towards. I think if you were to be having a math problem now, you would all have left the meeting.
I'm sort of content, actually. I'm not. It's more pine cone, but I think it's doable.
Yeah, possibly. Don't tell me you finished.
Okay, I won't.
If anyone else finished, do let us know. I guess I'm being a little slow today.
We have two people who are done.
Including yourself, Luca?
Not including myself, no. But looking at it, I don't know whether I should consider it done. So that's why I think I abstained.
Okay.
Because I think I know where I went wrong. I think I made mine very, very flat. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. Let us know if the others also finished. If not,
Okay,
it
I
gives me
think
more time to at least focus.
I think we can give ourselves just one more minute or so, I think. I think this is, if not the last step, the second last, I believe.
I think it is. The last step is just erasing the previous lines from all these things.
Yeah. So whoever's finished with that can possibly already get a jump start on the erasing part.
Yeah. Let's see what does the next one looks like. Ah, the next one is this.
And that
Yeah,
is your finished
that is the last
product.
step.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
think instead of erasing, because my eraser doesn't work too well, I'm actually going to try shade in a little bit. Just make
Make
it
it
all
look like a
gray.
rectangle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fake it till you make it, you know?
For me, the way I've drawn these scales is so random, but I guess it looks in case enough.
I mean,
But
you
no
can
one
look
will
at it
know.
and say it's a pangolin. That's the hope. That's what
That is
matters.
the hope, yeah. And of course, if any of you are done and would like to show your drawing to us, to let us know.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us.
Yep, I think with that we are finished anyways.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us. Amazing having you today, and see you in workshop 4.
And if anyone wanted to take a look at my handiwork,
Yeah, you're having the. There you go.
yes. I'm trying to take it off.
There we go.
This is the weight. There it is.
Fairly good, fairly good. I had to draw it. I even have to get rid of my background now. Let's see. There we go. Here's mine.
Ooh, let's see. Awesome. Yeah.
So thank you guys for joining, and see you in the next session.
Absolutely. Thank you again for joining.